The thing that I counsel parents to often do when frustrating situations come up during treatment or as they're trying to work towards a goal for their child is to differentiate and continue to differentiate the circumstances that are going on and the thoughts that they're having about those circumstances. And sometimes this can be really, really difficult. Let me give you a couple of examples. I had a client who would engage in large amounts of behavior to basically make his parents mad and frustrated at him. He liked and thought it was really, really funny to make them angry. And so he would engage in a lot of behaviors that he knew were wrong because he had been told that they were wrong. He had been lectured about how they were wrong. And we would work with them to get those behaviors to stop. And then a new behavior would pop up a couple weeks later. And then we'd get that behavior to stop. And then an old behavior would pop up. And on and on and on and on and on it would go. And he was always seeking out a way to make his parents angry, to get that angry reaction from them that he thought was really, really funny. And these parents had a hard time, understandably, differentiating the circumstance that was going on versus the thoughts that they were having about that. So the circumstance is he is running in the house. Everybody can see that he's running in the house. There's, you could prove it in a court of law, whatever, all of that is the circumstance. And the circumstance, that it's the real circumstance when it's neutral. It's just a fact. It's just something that's happening. But almost immediately what happens in the human brain is we'll have thoughts about that circumstance that will make us feel a certain way about that circumstance. So these parents were having thoughts about that, and they were thoughts like, we've told him he shouldn't be running. He just likes to make us mad. He just wants us to yell at him. The neighbors down below us are going to be upset and they're going to be calling management again. This is out of control. Nothing is working. And it would, all of these thoughts about the circumstance would start to really make them frustrated, make them feel like they were trapped, make them feel like they were alone, make them feel like they couldn't bond with their son, made them feel resentful of him often, made them feel really depressed about any progress that they were making. And it started to really affect how they were showing up for him. And we started to see some regression in a lot of previous, mastery, like getting previous behaviors to go down because they were resorting to taking out their frustrations in front of him, resorting back to the lectures that he loved so much, resorting back to spankings, resorting back to reprimanding and all of those things that they knew deep down inside weren't working. They understood the science behind why those things weren't working anymore, and why those would continue to propone behavior in the future, but it just felt better because they were so trapped and so frustrated. Versus if we're looking at the circumstance of he's running in the house, and you decide that the thought you're going to have about that is, oh, good, this is an opportunity for me to run the protocol that I've come up with to lower this behavior. And you follow through every single time that happens, and you're excited to do it because every single time you do it, you're solidifying that behavior going down. You're solidifying that this is still something that's not acceptable. And you're solidifying yourself as that source of authority for him without having to reprimand, without feeling all of those feelings of distress and depression and everything else that comes along with that. It becomes a feeling of determination and a feeling of purpose just based on the thoughts that you have about that situation. I have another example. I had a client who was really verbally abusive to his parents in the morning. A lot of arguing, a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of name calling. And parents really, really struggled with getting him through his morning routine, getting him to school on time. And then it seemed to just color the whole day. And they were having, a lot of the same thing when these things were happening. And they contacted me and they were like, we feel like we resent him. We feel like he knows better. He's super smart. And he can be so sweet, but he knows that, these things, when he says these things, they hurt people's feelings. He knows that, these behaviors are not okay in our home. Why can't he just get to school on time? Why can't he just brush his teeth even the fifth time that I ask, I would be happy, but I'm asking him 16, 17 times before he even starts to move. And when he starts to move, he's arguing with me the entire time. Every morning is a nightmare. And so when you're having all of these thoughts about the circumstance, we start to feel all of those feelings of just hopelessness. And that is the feeling that would follow them around in their minds all day long. And what happened with these parents is we would come in and we would do, our therapy sessions after school. And we started to see so much success. He started to not have any arguments anymore with the BT. He started to be honest. He started to ask permission to do things before he started, leaving the room or all of these really, really awesome behaviors that parents were like, oh yeah, he never does that. He started to make complaints in nice ways without yelling at people. He started to pick up things around the house without needing to be asked 1,000 times, but just because he wanted to do something nice for someone. And his personality started to come out and started to shine, and he was so funny, and he was making such appropriate jokes and all of these wonderful things that started to happen as all of the problem behavior started to lower. But because this was such a problem in the morning and it was coloring the whole day for parents and making them feel so hopeless, they would often comment to me about how, well, it just feels like he's not making any progress. We're not going anywhere. And I would pull up the data and I would show them all of the behaviors that are occurring when he was with the therapist and when he was, the things that he was doing around the house. And it was almost like it would almost jar them of well, I know I'm home, I'm seeing these things happen, but it just feels like I'm just having thoughts that progress is not being made. And so they were losing out on being able to see the progress that was being made because these thoughts about this circumstance that was in the morning were so pervasive all day long. And I think that there's a lot of power in actually having quality thoughts about whatever circumstance is going on in your life, because most of the time the circumstance can't be changed. Yeah, maybe it would be nice, the circumstance is that you have a diagnosis of autism for your beautiful, beautiful child. And that circumstance can't be changed. And what thought are you going to have about that? What is that going to mean to you? What are you going to make that mean? Because you get to choose the thoughts you have about whatever circumstance you're in. You get to find meaning in whatever circumstances are in your life. If it were me and I were having that same situation, I would maybe think healthier things like, I wonder if he needs more time between me telling him that he needs to get up every 34 seconds. Or, there are so many different ways that I could go about trying to fix the problem rather than just continuing to be frustrated about how I'm receiving the same result all the time. So those are some of the thoughts I had about creating a mindset that is impervious to the frustration of life. And I feel like those who can manage their mind around the circumstances that they can't change, and those who find ways to seek meaning that is helpful and that helps them feel determined and helps them feel strength and helps them feel purpose, those are the parents that see the most success. Those are the parents who are able to work through really, really difficult situations. And those are the parents of children who make the most success and who feel the most connected to their family members. I love working with parents on mindset and how to work through these things and how to gain a mindset of power and control, how to gain a mindset of determination, even through difficult situations. Because if you don't have the right mindset, everything else is going to be a wash. And when you have that right mindset and you hold to those thoughts and you're managing your mind and you're managing what you're making everything believe, then you can see the success everywhere. And when you see a regression or a new problem behavior pops up, or the progress isn't as fast as you would like, you have the ability to make that mean what you want it to mean. You have the ability to feel what you want to feel about that situation. And that's something that it's not always easy, and sometimes you do need help to see what your brain is doing. Sometimes you do need help to manage that mind, manage the mindset. Sometimes it's too hard to see by yourself. I know from personal experience, it's really, really difficult to see what's going on in your brain when it feels like all of the thoughts you're having are true. And they must be true, and there's no alternative thoughts that I can believe about this situation. But every circumstance in life is neutral until you have a thought about it. And that thought is going to make you feel something, good or bad, about that situation that's happening. And most of the time, circumstances cannot be changed. So there are times where it's appropriate to feel something negative, sadness, or maybe even anger. Maybe it's appropriate to feel those negative things. But sometimes it's unnecessary, and sometimes it's unhealthy to continue to feel things like hopelessness and depression and sadness for extended periods of time, especially when it's unnecessary. So this is something that I often coach parents on. This is something that I see a lot of success with. This is something that I love to do. This is something that I see a lot of changes happening just on the basis of this, like without any other coaching into the science of behavior and how to turn behaviors on and off and how to teach new behavior and how to do XYZ and all of these cool tips and tricks that we have in the field of behavior analysis and all of the science that we have to offer the world. It's the science of managing your brain around whatever circumstance is going on in your life that has the greatest effect on the parents that I talk with. On the mom who's feeling, hopeless. On the dad who feels so frustrated that we lost 3 words this week. Is this even making a difference? On all of those thoughts that, while they feel so true and they feel so powerful, there might be an alternative that could offer you strength. There might be an alternative that could really give you the courage and the willpower to move through and beyond for your child.
For those that tuned in, thanks so much for listening. If you have a question you'd like us to talk about, please send it to us at famframing@gmail.com. That's FAMFRAMING framing@gmail.com. Also check out our social media for more great tips and resources. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next week.